Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. So I have to first credit Angelica for this video. She reacted to this and I saw this while I was on my trip and I was like, I have to react to this, period. So we're going to talk about it. I'm in like the grieving process of locking in, basically. There's a little bit of a bitterness to it, which is bad to say, but I'm just going to be honest. But I'm also like, I am ready, but I'm a little irritable. I also have to lock in financially too. So I think there's just a lot of locking in a lot of different ways that are going to be that's going to be happening over the next 3 months. I have a lot of shit to do, honestly. So I have to just do it and grow up and stop complaining, basically, which I don't want to. So it's not fun. It isn't fun to be mature. It's not fun to be responsible all the time. But we're going to go ahead and cover this because I felt like this would be a good motivation factor. The cringe is kind of off the charts. I also wanted to cover this because there is such a myth about poverty causing obesity, and I'm going to prove that once again. You cannot be impoverished and be this big. You just can't. You can't. It's too hard, especially in today's economy. Especially now, there is just no way in hell that you can be totally impoverished and be super huge. So this is a great example of how and why. So we're going to talk about it. Let's get into it.
Sometimes you gotta get yourself a little sweet treat. It's been a long, hard day. Just get a sweet treat.
I don't care about your... What are you... You already are $300 under what you need to survive.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm 23. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and this is Financial Audits.
Thanks for coming down from Dallas. Let me first say, I need to say this off the bat. Yes, I know I look like a freak right now. I look like a freak. You're going to deal with this. I'm not allowed to get wet.
I don't watch him. This is my first experience. Again, I saw some of this on Angelica's channel, but I had to turn it off because I was like, I have to watch this. I'm going to have to cover this. I think, again, there's nothing I love more than dispelling myths about obesity. And this one is major. This one is right up there with obesity is genetic. Poverty causes obesity. You all need to understand poverty does not cause obesity. Obesity causes poverty. That's why they're correlated. One leads to the other. You have it switched. It's kind of a chicken and the egg situation. You have to have some kind of disposable income to gain massive amounts of weight. You just do. So I would say it is a issue of the middle class. It is primarily a middle class thing to gain huge amounts of weight. Even if somebody's lower middle class, you still have to have some kind of disposable income to buy food. Within the toxic ritualistic, you just ignore it. So a lot of times people won't talk about it at all. They will not talk about how much money they've spent on food. They will not talk about it because it's embarrassing. So honestly, they just won't say it. Or in certain cases, if it's that severe, they'll be flat out delusional. So they will literally just skip it in their brain and ignore it. Similar to how people will flat out skip the fact that they ate so much in their brain. You just delete the memory, or it's you don't think about it. You don't even think about it to yourself. I think back to when I was in my early 20s and I was being very supported while I was in college. And I spent a lot of money on food and it was very, very wasteful. And of course, at the time I was like, I'm poor. I wasn't poor. I wasn't. If you're that poor, you can't buy that much food. You just can't. So let's go ahead and keep it going. I have been poor in recent years. And guess what? I wasn't eating that much, as evidenced by the drastic downsizing. It's almost impossible. I'm telling you guys. And I think people, they have this conception of like, oh, da da da. Like, well, you can get this stuff for cheap and that stuff for cheap. No, not anymore. Even like a bag of candy, it's like, we're getting to a point where like a bag of candy is like almost $4. And that bag of candy, $4, maybe $3.50. Like for a big bag, like a solidly big bag, that's about 800 calories. So how many calories does it take to maintain 350 pounds? Is it 800? I don't want to hear this myth perpetuated on my channel that to be super morbidly obese is affordable or cheap or something. It's not. It's just not. You can maybe get me with class 1, maybe. Certainly you could be in the mids. You can afford to be in the mids. Sure. But super morbid, no way. When you're getting to 300, 400, 500 pounds, it's expensive as fuck. It is expensive. So let's stop like blaming poverty for something. Like you're kind of taking on a person that is impoverished. You're taking on their struggle and you're kind of like almost making a mockery of it when you say things like that. It's disgusting. It actually disgusts me. And for people who believe these toxic ritualistic concepts and they don't actually think about it critically, you very obviously have never been poor. And so you need to understand that when you say that, you sound very uneducated to somebody who has actually been poor. You sound really, really stupid when you say that. I'm just going to tell you, this myth is so annoying to me personally as somebody who has experienced being very, very poor, especially now, especially in recent years, and somebody who has felt like I was poor rather than actually being poor. So I've been on both sides of this equation, and I will tell you, 21-year-old Alex was stupid as fuck, did not understand what it actually means to be poor, and was full of shit. And also deeply toxically ritualistic. So you are reinforcing that in other people. If you say, oh, you're impoverished, that's why you're so big. You're doing a reinforcement. You're buying into the bullshit. And I'm not going to placate that on this channel. We're not doing that.
Get wet for a couple days. So I want you to comment below. Rate me 1 out of 10. How cute am I right now? What do you do for a living?
I am a 5500 administrator. So 5500 administrator, my company works at the post office.
Yeah.
So my job is to tell the post.
Also, you need to think about the fact too, because I know people be like, chips. Chips are hella expensive now. Takis used to be like my favorite thing. I think like a whole bag of like the typical size, it's around 800 or 900. For me to maintain, 350 plus pounds, I had to eat over 5,000 calories a day. Especially towards getting towards, 380, it was like around there, at least 5K. So is that 800, 900 bag of chips? Is that all you're eating that day? No. It's not, maybe you could have a bag of chips that's 1,200. Maybe it's around 1,200. I can't remember. I haven't eaten it in forever. But still, and like I said, I see the prices of those things. It's expensive.
It's always late.
Yeah. And if it's us late or if it's the post office, but the post office doesn't like to be wrong. So, yeah.
Oh. Okay. And how much do you make in this?
So it's 20 an hour, so 40,000, I believe. Yeah.
Now we got to go help people customize and save hundreds with Liberty.
2000. I mean, not terrible for 23. Did you go to school?
I did not. I didn't go to any school.
Okay, definitely, not bad to getting started in
Yeah.
the early 20s.
So let's just be real. 40,000 is not poverty. It's not. Poverty is like 18,000 or less, maybe 16,000. Okay? And then that's for like a single person. 40,000 is not impoverished. So if she ever tried to say that she was big because of poverty, I wouldn't actually do this, but I would want to slap her in the face. That is not poverty.
Okay. So, in general, I get the sentiment going through your documents, taking a look at your documents, just looking at things you sent us. You just kind of live by the way of debt. Your life is just like, instead of working and making money and
She's
managing
irresponsible.
the money that comes in, I'm living the debt life.
Yeah, I like to just, I make the money and then I go home, either bed rot, or I hang out with my roommates, go, hey, you want to go out? Let's go out. Let's go on a ride. Let's go out.
On a ride?
Yeah, with motorcycles. We like to ride motorcycles.
Oh, you have a motorcycle?
I don't have the motorcycle. I just like to join.
You use their motorcycle?
Yeah, so I just kind of just join in as a passenger, join in as a motorcycle,
Okay, how many hours a week do you work right now?
So I'm supposed to be making 80, but there's times I do make about 70 to 75.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Per paycheck?
Like per paycheck? Oh,
No, no, no. Wait, what? What are you saying?
So I'm supposed to be making 80 hours.
A week?
No, sorry, 40. 40 hours a week. Sorry, 40 hours a
It's
week.
okay. That's why I was asking per paycheck. So that makes sense. What are we trying to do? Where are we in life?
Interesting.
So
She's like, I'm supposed to, but she doesn't. So I also try to point out all the time how when you are super morbidly obese, you struggle with full-time work. It is a huge issue that a lot of people don't talk about. But she was low-key touching on it, and he didn't touch on it enough. But I have to point it out to you because I saw it. She's supposed to, but she doesn't.
In safety. That's where I want to be. But, there is a job opening for
Safety.
Like, I like safety. I like telling truck drivers, don't take more than, don't drive more than 12 hours. Take your 30-minute breaks. I did want to do, like, the house.
They need someone to say that?
Yeah. You'd be surprised. Truck drivers are...
No, that actually makes sense.
Yeah. The safety cameras. We have cameras in the cabs, making sure they're not falling asleep. No texting while driving. Just making sure they're just taking their breaks, taking care of themselves. You see other things too. Don't really enjoy
That almost sounds like a less healthy job than even being a trucker. Sounds like sitting on more than being a trucker, just sitting there and watching cameras all day. But okay, why do you like that? It seems pretty low effort.
It was in the warehouse. I was in the warehouse industry first, and I got to do like the safety audit of the
of the warehouse.
Of the warehouse, just making sure
I
there's.
love the word safety. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just like safety of what? I don't know.
I know. Safety
Okay.
auditor is what the position
Sure.
was. Making sure there's eye wash stations, they're up to date. Posters everywhere, where to go for tornadoes.
It's not like you went into a bunch of debt then because you were at an income like $20,000 more a year. Then all of a sudden you got cut back and your lifestyle was inflated and you couldn't manage it. So why the f are we in so much debt today?
Toxic
Living's
ritualistic.
expensive, so
Okay.
Okay, well, hold on.
Well,
Delusional. Let's change that to eating is expensive. But do you like that interesting Freudian slip where eating is living? Isn't that interesting? So that is very toxic ritualistic. You need to understand what that looks like. That's bullshit.
that's,
Going from Dallas to Arlington, I moved to Arlington. It was kind of like forced, kind of like guilt to move in with two roommates.
okay.
So they kind of guilt me into moving in with them.
Why? How? What do you mean?
My previous roommate, we were.
I would guess Arlington would be cheaper than Dallas. I could be wrong. I'm not that good. But I have lived in Texas before. I lived in El Paso, and it was dirt cheap. It was so cheap. Oh, my God. It blew my mind how cheap it was. I hated it there, though, but it was... Oh, man. Whew. It was cheap. And sometimes you can get caught up in that, and I had to understand, like, I couldn't live that way just because it was cheap. Like, I hated it there. I absolutely hated it. I'm sure being there during the panini didn't help, but I didn't like it before the panini, so I just hated it there. But, yeah. All I'm saying is there are parts of Texas that are cheap. So I don't know how much Arlington is. I'm not there. I'm not, like, super experienced, but I would say it's probably less than Dallas. Dallas is a little pricier, for sure. So I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I was too far from my job. It was going from 1 hour to get to my job and then 2 hours to get home. So I was like, I want to move closer to my job, which is like the worst thing you can probably do. I don't know. But moved to Arlington because it was only 20 minutes.
Okay.
How is that the worst thing? That doesn't make sense.
Didn't realize how
practical.
expensive Arlington was.
Oh, okay, so it's worse. Okay.
Then I moved.
See, I don't know. Dallas is pretty pricey, so if it's worse than Dallas, interesting.
Moved back. I just recently moved back to Dallas. So
That's not your rent.
Oh.
Whenever you're spending percentages.
Okay, what? Then it's irrelevant.
And you're just fucking, like, oblivious to your position. If that's my
If you moved back to Dallas, then that's irrelevant. Like, she's trying to say she went into debt living in Arlington. Like, that doesn't make sense.
It's because rent's expensive. You spend almost 20% of your spending on going out to eat.
Oh.
Oh, it's because the rent is expensive. $800 a month almost going out to eat.
Wow.
What's your rent?
My rent right now, it's now $535.
What was it in the place you were pressured?
So that is not a crazy amount of rent, especially not for, I think this video came out like a year ago. That is very affordable. So she may have roommates or not. It doesn't matter. That is a rent that somebody impoverished could afford. That's pretty decent, especially if that's including utilities and everything. That is not hard. Probably roommates and stuff. I know Angelica was kind of floored at that number, but when you're in the South, especially if you're in the South with roommates, you can have decent rent situations for sure. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I would not be able to have launched my activism if I was living in California. It would not have been possible. So there are benefits and drawbacks to living in a cheaper area, but because I lived in Alabama during this time, I had flexibility. I was able to take a risk. You know, a lot of the stars aligned, so to speak, for me to be able to do this. It was tough. It was still a sacrifice, but it was possible. And I can also assure you, I never could have done this if I was still BINGing, because I also would not have it would not have been fiscally possible. It was still barely possible, especially last year. It was very hard to continue the activism on a financial level. But my my rent is affordable, you know, it's pretty low, especially compared to the national average. You can figure things out like that. The South, it is possible, is all I'm saying, especially when you're not living alone. So I think people don't think about that stuff too. But regardless, I believe her, is all I'm trying to say. I could see that being a thing. But if she's making $40K and her rent is $535, she is not even close to being poor. She's just not rich. There is this thing called middle class that people don't understand. She's middle class.
$650.
Okay, so the money you go out to eat is literally more than that. So was it the rent or was it? So why could you?
So she's paying $800 on going out to eat. I don't even know if that's including all of the grocery store trips and stuff too. So she's paying more on eating out than her rent. And she's going to say the cost of living is so expensive. That's why. You see the delusion? $800. It's more than her rent. Tell me again how impoverished she is. I can assure you, I'm not doing as bad as I was last year. I still couldn't afford $800 to go out to eat. You know, I live in the South. $800 is a lot here. It's a lot. And I think it's hard for people to understand when they live like on coastal areas or stuff like that, because the cost of living is different and also your pay is different. Like everything is just different. But $800 in the South is a lot. It's kind of like when gas prices went up in 2022, it was absolutely devastating to the South because we have to drive a lot here. A lot of stuff is very far apart and your wages are not as much. So when gas went up, it was like a huge percentage of the income of people in the South. So it was devastating. Whereas like other areas, like I'm sure California, they still felt it because their gas prices are like crazy high. But it's not as much percentage wise. So it's not as dramatic, or like they sometimes can be blasé about it. But I think it's important to understand like different areas in rural versus urban and like what affects a rural area versus what affects an urban area. I think it's really important to understand these dynamics when we're talking about class and poverty and food and obesity, when we're relating it to all those things. To hear that her rent is $535 and she's spending $800 on going out to eat alone, possibly, unless if that's also including groceries, that is wild. That is so financially irresponsible. That is why she's poor. So can we just admit that? Can we stop dancing around it?
So why off the bat did you go and blame cost of living expenses if obviously clearly...
I don't even know. Like if she was living in New York or something, what the equivalent would be. It'd be like she was spending like, I want to say like $2,000 or something. Like just to kind of put you guys in perspective of what that sounds like to me as someone who lives in the South, it would be like she's spending, you know, at least $1,500 or something. It's just crazy. Like, how much is your rent in New York? You know, I know some rents like in LA. Let's say has roommates in California and she's spending $1,700 on rent with roommates. So that would be like she was spending, like what, $2,500 or something? Maybe even more, $3,000 on fast food or like going out to eat in Cali. That's what it sounds like. So I just need you to understand the perspective. That is wild. Like, it is wildly irresponsible. It is insane. And for her to act like the cost of living, it's just so much. Bullshit.
You spend more money going out to eat. Why was the immediate deflection on, oh, things outside of my control, I just couldn't do anything about it? Why, instead of the things that you actually do and go do, like immediately out of the gate, it's just like, oh, I couldn't have done anything. Oh, no.
It's fun to go out, but here's the thing.
But that's not what we were even doing. What do you mean it's fun to go out? But you said it was because cost of living's too much.
Well, yeah.
Sure, it's fun, but if you can't afford it, then you can't afford it. Stupid. And to be in debt to do all that? Oh my gosh, girl. I mean, own up to it. There is definitely a financial aspect to BINGE that is not talked about enough. It's not, and we're going in.
But also,
Your spending percentages say that is incorrect. It says that you could live. It was what, $600 at the highest? What was that? That was right?
$650. Yeah.
$650? Okay.
Yeah.
Net hits your account.
Mm-hmm.
Brought to you by Rogue.
1 second.
Net hits your account on a monthly basis, $2,441. Less than 30% of your income went to rent.
Oh.
You were already less than that max we would want it to go to. So no, it's your spending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that too, because like
That's not what you said, though.
But
you
I'll
tried to
look.
blame it on the world instead of yourself immediately.
Well, I mean, I
Instead
can.
of personal actions.
I mean, it is personal actions. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's completely different. So why didn't you say that?
Yeah. I mean, I like to go out and spend money, but I'm also looking at my bank account like, maybe I shouldn't have spent that. You know, maybe.
Well, I'm glad you changed your tune, but that's not what you said, though.
No, it isn't. I'm sorry.
Okay, because I mean that's a big thing immediately. If what we're doing when we're looking at our finances, when we're looking to improve our life, we're immediately just blaming the world around us. We'll never take any accountability. We'll never do anything.
I just got so addicted to the lifestyle I had before for a couple months, you know, bringing in more money and being like,
How much more was it?
I
Net?
think it was like 400 more. I think because I was only
Okay.
bringing home
and
like
you can't cut 400 in once.
no,
Why?
like once. Well, like
Huh?
what was the question? I'm sorry.
No, why can't you cut?
Jeez. Well, he's not understanding that he's touching upon somebody with E followed by letter D. That's where he's just like, what the hell is this? You know, and he's not getting that this girl has this issue. So she is totally tripping. She's totally delusional. She's not seeing reality for how it is. And he's just like, hello. And then she's just quickly changing it. Well, there's a lot of that. I think, you know, I have talked with some of you guys that have suffered on the other side of E followed by the letter D. And what I've noticed about BINGE is there's so much ambivalence. I think because it's such an anxiety-driven version of the toxic ritualistic. I think they all are, but with BINGE, it's especially strong. And so there's all these ambivalent things where it's like, I believe this, but also this at the same time, and they're total opposite. It's like she can't just be real because she's anxious. It makes her anxious. So when he says, why are you so broke? She's like, because the cost of living. And then he's like, no, it's because you're spending. She's like, yeah, it is because of my spending. Yeah. It's like there's nothing there. That's how it is with a lot of fat acceptance talking points. They'll completely shift on a dime because there's nothing there. It's just a big ball of anxiety. And he's confused. He's like, what the hell is this? Basically. And I can tell you what it is. She can't actually be real because she's so anxious about it that her mind is not, it's like there's so much anxiety around this that it causes like a cognitive impairment, basically, like where you cannot, it's like you're physically incapable of thinking about it rationally. It's very difficult for people to understand. I think this is another issue I see a lot where people are so quick to affirm and they're so quick to like not stigmatize and not judge and this type of stuff. And it's like when you have E followed by letter D, you are actually delusional. You are nuts. You're actually insane. And people, they say like, oh no, you're not. Like, don't feel any kind of way. It's like, honey, people will die for this. This is something that kills people. People are not dying because they're not insane. Like, this is insanity. How is she going to do when this goes on for 10 more years? Is she going to be okay? It's like, no. No. And I'm glad that he's not affirming her. That's good. But she's very uncomfortable with him not affirming her BS, basically. But she's hitting a fiscal wall. She's hitting a financial wall, which this tends to hit before the health wall. So hopefully she can get a reality check. You know, I would love for her to, but again, people will often go so far with this, they'll die for it. They don't care. But this is typically one of the first issues that comes up with somebody with this problem, is you have financial issues.
Got that? Do you have a discipline problem? Do we have addictions?
Oh, a discipline problem for sure, because I'm just like, oh well, future Sophia can
Yeah,
take
your
care of it.
future is now because these minimum monthly payments are insane. So let's start with that. I want to hear from your perspective, honestly, honest question. Give me honesty. What is your financial score? 0 being the worst, 10 being the best.
I would say 2.
Okay. If you want your Hammer financial score, it's free in the description below. Also,
I think she's
apply if you need a
realistic
good
about that.
verbal punch to fix your finances. CalebHammer.com/apply. You can get on the show. Capital One. Quicksilver. Starting with that chunky one right there. We have a balance of, okay, yeah, see, the rent's too expensive. And we just can't cut back on spending, going out to eat. But we're sitting here with a balance of $6,360.17. Basically 3 months of what comes in net.
I
3 months of what comes in net sitting on a card.
mean, I'll pay
1,000
you.
hours away from being at your credit limit there, which I could see, which you could get to overnight because you only put your minimum monthly payment down on it, but then you went and spent $1,095. Well, interest of $146.26 was accruing.
Yeah, the interest is really bad on that. I don't realize.
So why do we spend? Why do we spend $1,000? Yeah, the interest was really bad on that. So you acknowledge that. So why would we spend on it? That doesn't make any sense.
Nice things, like little knickknacks and stuff.
Nice things like in our entire future.
Delusional. She's spending on food. Period. So, what is something about food that is interesting on a financial level? Food is something that you have and then it's gone. It's not a good investment. Now, if you're talking about like trying to eat healthy food and things like that, sure, but I'm talking about food for pleasure. Is that a good investment? No, it's not. You have the food, you enjoy it, it's gone, and the money's gone. It makes you poor. It's not like when you're buying food, you're not, especially food for pleasure. So that's what we're talking about here specifically. Food for pleasure. When we're buying that, it's not like you're buying laundry machines to where you can start setting it up and collecting money to get back some of that investment. For example, you're not buying a washing machine or a laundromat or whatever. Like, you're not investing it in anything that's going to give anything back to you. It doesn't, other than the fat on your body, which weirdly, fiscally, it did help me when I was very poor in 2023 and 2024 and 2022, to be honest, but I was still eating a lot in 2022. In 2023 and 4, I was so broke that the investment of the fat on my body from all the money I had spent to gain that weight, it actually did pay me back because I was able to spend less, particularly at bigger sizes. But that's really it, babe. And it wasn't that great. It didn't pull me out of, being dirt poor that I didn't have to eat as much. I still struggled, but that's it. It did help. It made it possible. It made it possible to continue everything I'm trying to do. So there's that, I guess. But that is such a minimal return. And it's just wild. But it is wild to me when I'll hear people say, like, it costs so much to lose weight. It doesn't. Not unless if you're doing diet culture stuff, which you typically don't have to do until you're at least mid. At least. When you're like super morbid, you do not have to spend that much. You're spending so much less when you are downsizing. I do not want to hear it. I do not want to hear it. It's ridiculous.
Things are nice to look at. There's things to like hang
I
up.
like to look at credit card balances being zero. That looks pretty nice.
I mean,
I'll
that's
frame
nice
that.
too. That's nice too. That used to be me, but now I'm just kind of
Well, it's not, and you're not a credit card person, obviously.
No, I'm not. I mean, I acknowledge that.
$1,000. You know the interest is bad. So why? What are the actions? What's going through your head as you're going through that? Let's diagnose this a bit.
So I pay a little bit more, or sometimes just the minimum.
It was just the minimum.
Yeah, I pay that, and I'm just like, okay, cool, I got it. And then I go out, and I'm just like, well, I don't have enough in my budget. My credit card has money on it.
Performance, durability, affordability.
Let's talk about this for a second. One of the best things I did while I was broke as hell is I lived broke as hell. When I have talked about how I have debt, I'm talking about very low amounts compared to her 6,000. It's not even close to that. It's like my debt is probably less. Yeah, I don't know exactly how much it is, but it's way less. It's probably like 1,000 or less, basically. So it's nothing compared to that because I don't do that stuff. I don't buy knickknacks. I don't buy like 50 bajillion things to eat and stuff like that. I don't do that. I understand that I'm broke and I live broke. You have to do that, you know? So hopefully I won't be broke anymore, you know, in the future, but I wouldn't consider myself at poverty at this point. I would say I'm just broke. So kind of a weird level and weird differentiation. But like 2023, I was in poverty. I was. And people tried to gaslight me that I wasn't. And I'm like, no, I am. I absolutely am. 2024, I still was, basically. I mean, I think I was like a tiny bit above, but not really. And and my taxes went up so much that it canceled it out anyway. So it doesn't matter, really. This year, I just think I'm broke. So you can see the difference. I feel like you guys have seen like a little bit of a financial journey too. You can kind of see. So I would consider myself broke, but not impoverished today. So that's where there is a little bit more wiggle room. There's a little bit more, you can see a little bit of a difference. But I still have very affordable rent and I still am in a deficit and, you know, things like that for the most part, which does still make it somewhat cheaper. And I thrift, like all the clothes I wear are thrifted. Like, you know, I live very cheaply. So that's how I'm able to do what I do, basically. I live very, very cheaply. And that's something that I will say is do not depend on credit cards. Don't depend on that. Like when I'm talking about my debt is like, I had to get a deep cleaning at the dentist. Like it's responsible stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's not anything crazy. And I can afford to pay it off. So it's like, but it's for things like that. Or like, you know, yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about I bought a bunch of knickknacks and stuff like that. No. I'm not talking about I spent $800 to go out to eat this month. I'm talking about like a dental deep cleaning cost. So it's important. I want to keep my teeth, right? You have to invest in yourself sometimes, and that's okay. Like I'm not like all debt is bad, but it's like you need to be responsible and you need to like take debt seriously, which this is not something that I'm like trying to lecture, I guess. Like I'm sure you guys all know this, but I'm just saying like don't ever go into debt over food. Never. That is one of the stupidest things you can ever do in your life. Think about the difference of the dental deep cleaning versus going out to eat. What do you get out of it in the end? Well, I get to keep my teeth. That's important. If I go out to eat, what am I getting? Nothing. All right, you guys, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to spend some time with my grandma. So, and yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.